Hello everyone, I am Axel, and in this video I will explain how to properly build Xinyan. Now, there was a Genshin Impact event quite a while ago where you were able to test out a bunch of characters, which included Albedo, Mona, and of course Xinyan, which is why I'm talking about her, because in that event, Mihoyo really did Xinyan dirty. She was not very rock and roll in that event, because Mihoyo built her to increase her defense the most. Her Claymore increased defense, that was the subset of her Claymore, and I think a lot of the artifacts focused on her Elemental Burst and increasing her physical damage, which is a step in the right direction, kind of. I don't think Xinyan is meant to be a sub DPS. She's very much built to be a main DPS. You want to hit enemies a lot with her Claymore, and her Elemental Burst is just something that's a nice bonus to have, but you're not gonna primarily be dealing damage using her burst. You want to use her normal attacks. That's how you're supposed to dish out damage with Xinyan, in my opinion. So I will go over Xinyan's skill set to explain why I think you need to go for a physical damage main DPS build for Xinyan. Now, Xinyan's elemental skill is that she uses her guitar to smack enemies and it deals pyro damage. And depending on the amount of enemies hit, she will get a shield, and the shield scales based on defense. If you get the highest level shield, which is shield level 3, it'll also do pyro damage over time to nearby enemies. While her elemental burst is that she deals a lot of physical damage to nearby enemies, and she also does pyro damage over time. But the thing is, whenever you use her elemental burst, you actually push enemies away, so they're maybe going to get affected by the pyro DOT for like a few seconds, like maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and then they're not going to get hit by the pyro damage anymore. And her elemental skill has a 15-second cooldown, so you're not going to be dealing a lot of pyro damage. You're mainly going to do physical damage, whether it be from your elemental burst or your normal attack, but the main damage that she'll be dealing is physical damage. And when you ascend her, her passive is that whenever you're shielded by her shield, you deal increased physical damage. It's increased by 15%, which really pushes you to go for that physical damage build. Alright, so if we look at her constellations over here, Constellation number 1, Fatal Acceleration. Upon scoring a critical hit, increases attack speed of Xinyan's normal and charge attacks by 12%. So this really pushes for main DPS Xinyan because you want to get those critical hits. You want to increase your attack speed so you can attack faster, you can deal more damage. And if you get C1 Xinyan and you use her as a sub DPS, this constellation is very much useless because you're not using her for her normal attacks. You're using her for her elemental skill and elemental burst, and I think that really is a shame. And if you look at C2, Constellation 2, Impromptu Opening, her elemental burst physical damage has its crit rate increased by 100% and will form shield level 3. So if you use her elemental burst with C2 Xinyan, you instantly get a shield and your crit rate is essentially doubled. So if your crit rate is 50%, it means that whenever you use her ult, she will always crit. And that's good because when she crits, her attack speed gets increased so she can deal more damage. C4, Wildfire Rhythm. Whenever you hit someone with your elemental skill, you'd reduce their physical resistance by 15%, which means that whenever you hit someone and you're shielded, you deal 35% more damage, which is actually insane. Now, you can argue that this makes Xinyan a really good support DPS because, yeah, she increases my damage and she reduces the enemy resistance. Of course, she's a good sub DPS. She's a support, essentially. But no, not really, because C1 and C2, well, C1 in particular, it increases her attack speed, which, you know, she can hit faster, she can deal more damage with her normal attacks, and you're completely missing out on that if you're using her as a sub DPS. Now, you might argue that her C2 is really good for a sub DPS role because she will crit, and she'll give you a shield, and she'll just do a lot of damage with her burst, essentially. I think it works better for her as a main DPS because if you crit, you get increased attack speed, which is what you really want, and it really pushes you to get a high crit rate, especially because your crit rate will be doubled if you use your elemental burst. So honestly, you just want to hit people with Xinyan, basically is what I'm trying to say here. So Xinyan's 6th constellation is not very useful. It only decreases stamina consumption for charge attacks, and it makes it deal a little bit more damage because you get the defense bonus, but honestly, don't have to worry about C6. In my opinion, C6 is completely fucking useless. You don't even need C5, it only increases like one of the skills by 3 levels. if you have C2 Xinyan, she is more than viable to be a support or a main DPS, but if you get her to C4, that makes it even better. But again, you don't need to worry about Constellations. If you can get until C2, that's good enough, you know? That's good enough. Alright, so for her build, there is only one free-to-play Claymore that I think she needs, and that is the Claymore that you get for completing the hidden quest in Dragonspine, and it gives you a physical damage bonus as a substat instead of attack percent, which, you know, it's really good for her because you want to focus on physical damage. She deals physical damage with her normal attacks, and she deals physical damage with her elemental burst. So overall, you want to build her physical damage, and that's the perfect Claymore. It's free-to-play, you just need to complete the quest, it's not that hard. Using now her artifacts. Right now, I'm building her 4 gladiators. I'm not sure how good that is. I honestly have no idea how to build artifacts, so I probably shouldn't be making this video, but I just love Xinyan so much, and Mihoyo did her so dirty. This is the amount of damage I'm dealing. As you can see, this is the normal attack, and now this is her elemental skill, and now this is her elemental burst. I do think you should pair up the 2 physical damage bonuses, because with the physical damage cup, I think you can get up to 50% or 40% based from that. And if you use the set, that's an additional 25%. And if you use the second physical damage set, that'll be another 25%. So in total, just from artifacts, that'll be a 100% increase for your physical damage. You'll be doing so much physical damage, and the substats, obviously, the basics, you know, you want crit rate, you want crit damage, you want attack. And I think the last one you want is energy recharge, because her elemental burst takes up a lot of energy. I think it's 80 energy, which is pretty high up there. She really struggles with recharging her elemental burst, but as long as you got those 4 substats, you know, you're all good. If you get defense, it'd be nice. It's not the end of the world, especially because her shielding scales off defense. If you want a better shield, it's okay to have a defensive substat, but if you don't want defense substats, it's also completely fine. Her shield is basically worthless. Like, don't use her shield as a shield. Her shield is essentially a buff. Alright, so the current team that I'm using is Xinyan, Fischl, Albedo, and Zhongli. Now, the reason being is that Zhongli keeps my team alive, and also the double Geo Resonance, it buffs up Xinyan's shield as well as Zhongli's shield, so it's just really nice overall. Fischl is just a nice turret. She deals a lot of damage, and Albedo, his elemental skill allows Xinyan to deal more damage whenever she hits someone, and it allows Fischl to deal more damage too whenever Oz hits someone. And Albedo just grants a lot of energy for the whole team, so I get my ults really fast. But obviously, I don't think it's a very viable team for everybody, especially because you need Zhongli and Albedo. But for Spiral Abyss, the team that I use is Xinyan, Xiangling, Barbara, and a random character. That random character just fills out the requirements that I need for the specific chamber in Spiral Abyss. Like, if there are Electro Fatui skirmishers, I'll put Shang Yun there so that I can break their shield and stuff. So I really do think Xinyan is a one-woman man, one rock star. She can carry the entire team if you build her properly. I only use Xiangling so we can get the double Pyro bonus, and having a Pyro sub DPS really gives you more energy so you can proc your ults faster. And the last two characters can be fucking anybody. Yeah, if you have Xinyan, use Xiangling. She's a free character. I completely forgot about that. She's completely free. Everyone has access to her. Just build her for sub DPS and you'll be good. The other 2 characters, I would recommend Barbara, because Barbara, you know, Vaporize increases your pyro damage, so it's just a nice bonus there. And Barbara also heals the entire team, so if you take damage, you can use Barbara. And the last character, use whoever you fucking want. You can use the Traveler, or Amber, or Kaya. You can use anybody for all I care. Xinyan is a rock star, and she doesn't need a supporting cast. But if you do give her a proper supporting cast, she'd be really happy, you know. Just keep her alive. You don't really need to pay attention to elemental reactions, which is why I go for the Geo Resonance, because she rarely deals pyro damage, so I don't need to think about elemental reactions and stuff. But yeah, that is my Xinyan build. I am pretty sure this video is all over the place, and if you guys made it through to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really love Xinyan. She is too underrated. She should have a bigger influence on the story, I think. I think as of right now, there is only one line of dialogue that references Xinyan, and that's one of the sideboards in Liyue. Like, if you read it, there's a chance that it mentions that Xinyan's stage takes place on the harbor or something. Or like they moved her stage to the harbor. And no one really mentions her, no NPCs talk about her. For all intents and purposes, she does not exist in Genshin Impact unless you have her as a character. And honestly, the only reason why I'm using Xinyan is because she's like the first 4-star that I pulled that isn't Barbara. So I got Barbara first, and then I got Xiangling, and then I got Xinyan. So, you know, she really is a great character, and I do think every single character in Genshin Impact can be viable if you build them right. And Mihoyo did not build Xinyan right. So if you go with this physical damage build, even for Gladiator set, it's good enough for her. She deals a lot of damage. She has been my main DPS ever since day one of Genshin Impact, and I hope you guys get to try her out and have a newfound appreciation for Xinyan. Now, I will bow down to my rock and roll queen, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.